and welcome to the Exploring Ways to Wellness podcast. I'm Sarah Gorev and welcome to episode 1. This podcast is about challenging what we know about wellness and exploring alternative paths, breaking free from conventional wisdom and discovering what truly works for each of us. I'll be talking to people from different backgrounds who've had a whole range of different experiences. And I thought I'd start by giving you some context on who and where I am. I think it's probably important to say that because we all accumulate lenses through which we view the world. And although I like to think I'm broad-minded, I'm also aware that these aspects of my life will colour my own experiences. So I look forward to hearing from others and being open to new perspectives. I live in the UK, I'm in my 40s, and I'm married with 2 teenage boys. I've recently pivoted from working in marketing in the food industry and then self-employment, and a few years ago looked to merge business development with energy work. Now I've transitioned fully into focusing on EFT or tapping and energy products and services. Turning my back on what was expected of me, which was to conform to creating what a business or life should look like, and instead I'm letting my passion and intuition lead. It's nerve-wracking, and some people haven't understood it, but I do have the support of those I care most about, and I'm excited to see where it leads. To be honest, some of my best decisions in life were those that didn't really seem to make logical sense at the time. For example, instead of staying in the UK and finding a job after university, I embraced the unlikely circumstances that converged and resulted in me meeting the love of my life in Mexico. After discovering it is possible, or not looking for one, to meet your future husband while on holiday, and make a long-distance relationship work, I couldn't help but wonder, is there such a thing as fate? But actually, my wellness journey began long ago, with a curiosity that started at school. Fascinated by stories of witches and alternative perspectives, and mesmerised by the Beltane Fire Festival when I lived in Edinburgh. This early fascination with unconventional ways was complemented by my love of travelling and learning about different cultures, and that actually led me to study social anthropology for 2 years of my business degree. But it wasn't until, I was expecting my first child when I really began to challenge the status quo through my own actions rather than watching or reading about others. When I first discovered hypnobirthing in 2007, I encountered something that to me was revolutionary. It's a technique that uses a mixture of visualization, relaxation, deep breathing and self-hypnosis for a calmer birth experience. In a world where childbirth was spoken about with fear and expectation of extreme pain, I'd found a different narrative. I will say, some people around me were sceptical. How can you consider giving birth without pain relief? Surely you're planning an epidural, they'd ask. In fact, I am sure that some thought I was lying when I told them that a pain relief-free birth is exactly what happened with both my children. But my experience proved something more important. There are alternative ways of approaching even our most fundamental human experiences. This experience opened my eyes. It was my first glimpse into how our minds and bodies are connected, and how calming the mind can help us trust our bodies to do what they need to do. And it wasn't just about childbirth. I was recognizing that we each experience life differently, and we actually can choose from a thrilling menu of options about how we lead our way through it. In fact, I have tried quite a few so far myself. My husband's practice of transcendental meditation inspired me to try for a while. I loved it, but I couldn't commit to it. But it did lead me to finding other meditative practices that I dip into sometimes and find them really helpful to quieten my noisy brain and enable me to get peace and perspective. During lockdown, I explored journaling and embodiment practices. And a couple of years ago, I started training in energy healing and emotional freedom technique, also known as tapping, as well as visiting wellness festivals. Each one has been a breadcrumb, leading me to a broader understanding of the opportunities out there to shape our experience of life for the better. There are so many options, and it felt like daily there was another shiny object to try. This brought a new problem. How do I find what works for me without spending hours and lots of money on things that might not? The seeds for starting this podcast were already being sown. My journey into complementary wellness techniques truly transformed when I discovered EFT, Emotional Freedom Technique. At first, it seemed almost too good to be true. Here was a technique that bridged Eastern and Western approaches, a modern interpretation of energy therapies that had existed for thousands of years. Imagine addressing deep-seated emotional pain by simply tapping on specific parts of the body, without having to relive traumatic experiences. Initially, the concept challenged everything I knew. Meridians, acupressure points, the idea of chi. I've heard of them, but really didn't know what they were. And seriously, how could tapping on specific parts of your body potentially offer relief from both emotional and physical pain? It seemed impossible. But as I delved deeper, I discovered there are hundreds of studies supporting the efficacy of EFT and similar energy therapies. What fascinated me most wasn't just the technique itself, but my own evolving perspective. Did I need to understand exactly how it worked? Or was the fact that it was safe, non-invasive, and produced remarkable results enough? For me, the answer was clear. Experiencing the technique firsthand and seeing its potential to help others so simply and powerfully, I was completely captivated. It wasn't long before I knew I wanted to train and help others with this transformative approach. This experience became a pivotal moment in my wellness journey. It opened my eyes to the countless alternative approaches to healing and well-being that exist beyond conventional methods. Over the years, what I've also learned is that wellness isn't a one-size-fits-all. What works for one person might not work for another, and there are a lot more options than I would have ever imagined. I've started this podcast with the intention of creating a space where we can openly explore these more unconventional approaches to well-being. We're living in a world of constant pressure, constant stress. But what if there are wisdom, traditions, practices and approaches that existed long before our modern health system, or beyond the geographical boundaries we know as home, that could help us find balance again? In exploring wellness, I've also come to understand that our mental and physical experiences are deeply interconnected. It's not about choosing between emotional or physical approaches, but recognizing how they support one another. Take exercise, for example. We often think of it as a purely physical act, but our ability to move, to start, to commit, that comes from our mental and emotional state. This is another reason why I'm fascinated by holistic approaches to wellness. A crystal, meditating, or tapping might not replace a workout, but it could be the spark that shifts your mindset, that gives you the emotional permission to begin. So this is about finding those unique triggers that help us access our own potential. Some people find motivation through meditation, others through energy work, some through traditional therapy or movement practices. While I've used exercise as an example, these holistic approaches can also support our ability to meet other physical needs, such as drinking enough water, fueling our bodies by making the right food choices, or getting revitalizing rest or much needed pain relief. The real magic of these complementary techniques is through their ability to provide an immediate sense of wellness, offering relief and inspiration before conventional interventions might even begin to work. It can be part of the final solution or part of a journey to wellness. As I've said before, for me, the beauty of wellness is there's no single universal path. And that's what makes this exploration all the more juicy. What matters is discovering what uniquely sparks your potential, what helps you feel more alive, more connected, more capable of taking care of yourself. Each of our journeys is deeply personal, a continuous exploration of finding what resonates, what brings us relief, what moves us forward. It's about listening to ourselves with curiosity and compassion and an open mind to the countless ways we can nurture our well-being. So I'm starting this podcast because I want to make complementary therapies more accessible and help break down the nervousness around discussing them. These practices have such a profound potential to impact our lives in ways we might never have imagined. Just consider how understanding something like human design, energetic techniques, or astrological cycles could help you optimize tasks, improve relationships, manage stress, or even approach exercise and rest more intuitively. The possibilities are incredibly exciting. From knowing exactly when to take on a personal challenge to understanding how to support those around you more effectively. They aren't just alternative practices, they're tools for deeper self-understanding and connection. I do think now is the right time for these discussions. People seem more aware of the need to manage their mental health and what happens if they don't, its impact on their physical well-being, and they're more open to try out unconventional techniques. The popularity of mindfulness, yoga, and meditation is ever growing, and once you dip your toe in and mention it, people will sometimes open up that they've tried something. There is still some nervousness about being judged, though, as if admitting you've tried something different means you either need help with your mental health or are being pulled into a cult, rather than you actively seeking to support and improve your well-being. Imagine a world where supporting a colleague is as simple as quietly passing them the right crystal before a big meeting, offering a boost of calm and confidence with that encouraging smile. A world where wellness isn't something mysterious or intimidating, but something practical and supportive, rather than one where your colleague assumes you've gone mad and the crystal is a cry for help. This isn't a call for completely changing your lifestyle or to start waving sage sticks around the office, unless that's what speaks to you. It's an invitation to listen to yourself, being curious. I've witnessed incredible personal changes through exploring these practices, ones that people around me have noticed and asked me how to achieve similar. And I've seen how they can create real, tangible shifts in people's lives. I do think now is the right time. And if you're already exploring alternative therapies, these stories might inspire you in new ways. If you're completely new to this, you might find a perspective that resonates with you. And if you have your own experiences, whether they align with or challenge what we discuss, I want to hear from you too. Every perspective matters. Some of the key themes I'm looking to explore in this podcast include alternative healing practices, the mind-body connection, personal wellness journeys that inspire us, breaking down stigmas around unconventional approaches. Another quick thing though, I don't want to turn this into a dry academic lecture series. Life's too short for that. These conversations are going to be more like chatting with a friend over coffee. Maybe a few laughs, maybe some unexpected moments, and absolutely zero pretentiousness. Think of this podcast as your wellness wingwoman, here to make alternative practices feel approachable, fun, and totally doable. Some episodes might have you laughing, some might have you going, wow, never knew that. But they'll always be entertaining. Whether you're walking the dog, folding laundry, cooking a meal, or stealing a quiet moment with a cuppa. These chats are designed to be your podcast companion. Light, informative, and totally judgment-free. No complicated academic language here. No need to take notes. I'll handle that in the show notes, including links where relevant if you want to find out more. Just tune in, relax, and enjoy eavesdropping on some seriously fascinating conversations about wellness. Who says exploring potentially life-changing practices can't be fun? So join me in opening up conversations about wellness. I've got some really juicy chats recorded to share. My guests have been generously opening up about their chosen practice and experiences with it. Their passion for what they do shines through to me, and I hope it comes across on the podcast too. Their enthusiasm to share also shows how when you hit on the right technique for you, not only do you benefit from the enhanced wellness, but you want to pass it on. Watch out on social media for each month's theme that I've created to align modalities with times of the year that could resonate best. For example, I have themes like Reset and Realign in January, Wild Wisdom and Nature's Alchemy in May, Harnessing the Light from Solstice Energy in June, Harmonizing Seasonal Shifts in October, or Staying Grounded with Festive Flow in December. Some fascinating techniques that I've included are sound healing, oracle cards, breath work, human design, cold water swimming, EFT, meditation, Reiki, and many more. I'd love it if you'd share this podcast, talk about it with friends, and let's explore those incredible possibilities together. Who knows? Your journey of enhanced wellness might just begin right here, and I hope it does. At the end of all this rambling, let me summarize. My intention is actually simple: to open doors to wellness approaches that might just spark something in you. Wellness isn't about following a rigid plan or ticking boxes. It's a beautiful personal journey of discovery and joy. Think of this podcast as your companion in exploring all those amazing ways we can take care of ourselves. As I've already discovered, wellness isn't about one magic solution. It's often about weaving together different practices, sometimes guided by research, sometimes by pure intuition, sometimes just by that gut feeling that something might work for you, your own magic medicine. This podcast can help you not only discover new practices, but hear from those who've used them themselves and find what speaks to you. What works for you might also change over time with your circumstances. That's why I want this podcast to be something you can come back to, like a trusted friend who always has a new suggestion when life shifts. So I hope that helped you understand me a bit more and my intentions for this podcast. I invite you to join me each week as I introduce you to some truly inspiring people. These are people who've found their unique path to feeling good, to feeling balanced and whole again. I'll shine a light on practices that you might never have heard of, challenge what we think we know, and most importantly, open ourselves up to new possibilities. I can't wait to explore this journey with you, and I hope I'll see you in episode 2.